What if the secret to living a life that feels long, happy, and truly purposeful
Yeah.
wasn't, found in grand gestures or these complicated formulas?
Right.
What if it was woven into the simple, quiet, even sort of mundane practices of ordinary people happening right under our noses?
hmm
What if it was simply about finding your own unique reason for being?
That fundamental question.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're embarking on a journey into a source that explores exactly this, this profound idea. Today, our deep dive is into the book Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life by Héctor García and Francesc Miralles.
Yeah, this book, it came about from a really interesting encounter in Tokyo, actually. And it spurred the authors to travel way down south to the Japanese island of Okinawa, which is, famous for its centenarians.
People living past 100. Amazing.
Exactly. And their mission, which is pretty much what we're taking on today, was to understand and distill the wisdom they found in these communities. They focused on the core concepts of Ikigai and these practical anti-aging secrets these long-living individuals seem to just embody.
And our mission in this deep dive is to unpack those core ideas, to pull out the most valuable insights, the surprising bits, and the practical takeaways from this source. All of it tailored, hopefully, just for you, our listener. We're here to guide you through what makes this information really important and, maybe most importantly, how you might think about applying it in your own life, maybe starting today.
Okay.
So let's begin at the very heart of this exploration. The concept of Ikigai itself, it's a Japanese word, and the source defines it really beautifully as a reason for being, or maybe even more poetically, the reason you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, at its core, it's about finding joy, fulfillment, and, purpose in your life. Simple, but profound.
And what seems absolutely crucial to grasp from the book is that Ikigai isn't necessarily tied to your job or your career, right?
No, not at all. That's key. Yes, it can be your work, definitely. But it could also be a hobby, a passion, maybe your role within your family or community, really. Anything that gives your life that sense of worth, that spark that gets you going in the morning. It's deeply personal.
And it could change over time, too, presumably.
Oh, absolutely. It evolves as you evolve.
Now, the focus on Ikigai really gained traction, largely thanks to places like Okinawa, this island way down south in Japan. It's known globally for having this extraordinarily high number of centenarians.
Right. People living past 100.
And specifically, this small rural town on the northern tip, Ogimi, population around 3,000. It holds the incredible title of the Village of Longevity, apparently one of the highest life expectancies on Earth.
It's quite remarkable, and researchers have looked really closely at why Okinawans live so long and, importantly, so healthily. And while it's definitely a mix of things, a healthful, largely plant-based diet, a simple, active, outdoor lifestyle, drinking specific teas like sanpincha, the subtropical climate helps.
Sure, the environment plays a part.
Of course. But they strongly believe that having a strong sense of ikigai is a really significant contributor. It's not just physical stuff. It's deeply tied to the mental and emotional side of things.
That connects perfectly to the whole idea of blue zones, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That term Dan Buettner coined for regions where people live longest and healthiest.
Exactly. Okinawa was actually the very first blue zone identified. And when they studied these diverse blue zones, places like Sardinia, Costa Rica, Loma Linda in California, Ikaria in Greece, they kept finding these common threads.
Beyond just diet and exercise.
Yeah, beyond the obvious things. Finding a sense of purpose in life, their own version of ikigai, whatever they call it, consistently shows up on the list, right alongside things like strong social connections. So this isn't just some isolated Japanese idea. It seems to be a fundamental principle for living well that appears globally in these exceptional communities.
The source immediately points to some specific Okinawan cultural practices that kind of paint a clearer picture of this lifestyle. One is hara hachibu.
Yes, hara hachibu. It's the practice of eating until you're only about 80% full.
80%, not stuffed.
Not stuffed at all. It's ancient wisdom, apparently with roots way back in 12th century Zen Buddhism. It basically advises against the physical burden of overeating. The idea isn't about feeling deprived. It's about stopping when you feel a comfortable level of fullness.
How do they manage that? It sounds hard to judge.
Well, the source notes a practical thing the Japanese often do. Use smaller plates. It naturally helps regulate portion sizes and just makes hitting that 80% mark a bit easier to gauge. This simple habit, apparently, reduces the metabolic load on your body, freeing up energy that might otherwise be spent on constant heavy digestion.
Makes sense. And another vital practice mentioned is the moai. What are those?
Moai are these really Deeply rooted, informal social support networks in Okinawa. Think of them as groups of people with shared interests, often formed way back early in life, who just look out for each other.
Like a chosen family.
Very much like a chosen family, yeah. Originally, they might have been groups of farmers helping each other with harvests. The authors explain that members contribute a small, fixed amount of money regularly. This fund is used for group activities, sure, but it also provides this rotating sum that members can access in times of need.
So it's practical support too.
Practical and emotional. It offers both financial safety and crucial emotional stability. It creates this incredibly strong sense of belonging. And for many Okinawans, contributing to their moai, just being there for the others in the group, becomes a really significant part of their personal ikigai. It weaves community service right into their sense of purpose.
And the don't retire philosophy the book talks about feels deeply connected to all this.
Absolutely. In Japanese culture, as the book explains it, there isn't really that Western concept of a hard stop to activity at a certain age.
Right, like 65 and you're done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, staying engaged, feeling useful, continuing to pursue what you love, that seems to be the norm, and it's highly valued. It's not about this dramatic shutdown of activity.
So if you pull these foundational elements together, having a clear purpose, being part of a supportive community, practicing mindful eating like harahachibu, staying physically active.
You have to see them not as separate points on a checklist, but as these interwoven threads. They create a strong, resilient fabric for life. Understanding this holistic approach is really key, I think.
So for you, the listener, what's the takeaway here?
It means seeing that pursuing longevity and happiness isn't about finding, one magic bullet. It's more about nurturing this whole web of positive habits and perspectives, all centered around having a compelling reason to fully engage with life every single day.
That interconnectedness really does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive deeper into that connection then, specifically looking at the body-mind link and some of the, fascinating anti-aging insights the source explores. The book touches briefly on futuristic ideas like aging's escape velocity.
Yeah, the idea that maybe someday we'll add a year of life expectancy for every year that passes.
Right. But thankfully, it quickly grounds us back in practical strategies we can actually use now, focusing on that powerful synergy between our minds and our bodies.
Exactly. Moving from sci-fi back to actionable wisdom, a core principle they highlight is that old Roman idea, mens sana in corpore sano.
A sound mind and a sound body.
Precisely. The source argues really powerfully that keeping your mind active, flexible, and engaged is absolutely essential for staying young, not just cognitively, but physically too.
And the flip side is pretty stark, isn't it?
Hmm?
What happens if the mind isn't exercised?
Well, the source explains that a lack of mental stimulation leads to the deterioration of neurons and the connections between them. That reduces our brain's adaptability, its ability to react effectively to the world around us. Our brain needs exercise, just like our muscles do.
There's a quote from neuroscientist Shlomo Brezhnitz on this, and his point about the brain needing stimulation is really interesting.
It is. He points out that when our brain develops ingrained habits, it becomes automated. It's efficient, sure, but it kind of goes on autopilot. We get stuck in routines.
So how do we break out of that?
To revitalize the brain, you have to challenge it with new information or deliberately push yourself into unfamiliar situations. The source even suggests that stepping slightly outside your comfort zone, maybe feeling just a touch of mild anxiety, can actually stimulate those new neural pathways.
So intellectual curiosity, wanting to learn, engaging with new experiences, these aren't just like fun hobbies. They're actual strategies for anti-aging, both cognitively and maybe physically too.
That's the idea. The benefits of this kind of mental training, according to researchers like Collins Hemingway and Shlomo Brezhnitz mentioned in the book, are pretty significant. It can make tasks feel easier, improve your mood, boost your self-image. Even simple daily things like having conversations with different people or playing games provide new stimuli and can help ward off the kind of depression sometimes linked to isolation in old age.
Okay, now shifting to the more detrimental side of the mind's influence. Stress. The source points to stress as a major driver of premature aging.
Oh, absolutely. Think of long periods of intense stress as basically hitting the fast-forward button on your body's wear and tear. The American Institute of Stress is even cited, suggesting stress is implicated in a huge majority of health problems.
And there's specific biological evidence mentioned for this link.
Yes, the source brings up a study from Heidelberg University Hospital that connected stress directly to accelerated cellular aging. The mechanism involves telomeres.
Telomeres,
Right.
those are like the protective caps on the ends of our DNA, right?
Exactly like the plastic tips on shoelaces. They protect the ends of your DNA, which are crucial for cells regenerating and replicating properly. Chronic stress is like constantly fraying those shoelaces. It weakens and shortens the telomeres. And the greater the stress, the more pronounced this degenerative effect is on your cells and ultimately on your whole body.
That's a really powerful analogy. So how does the kind of stress we experience today, in the modern world, compare to, say, a cave dweller's stress?
The source makes a very clear distinction. For a cave dweller, stress was acute. It was triggered by immediate, real dangers, like being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, perhaps.
Right, fight or flight.
Exactly. That resulted in high doses of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, getting the body ready for action. It was temporary, life-saving. But for modern humans, stress is often constant and low level. Our brains interpret things like endless phone notifications, work emails pinging at all hours, social media alerts. It sees them as mini threats.
So we're constantly on edge.
Pretty much. This results in a near constant low-grade flow of those stress hormones. And the source argues this chronic low-level stress is incredibly harmful. It's linked to things like adrenal fatigue.
The constant state of being charged up must be exhausting for the system.
It really is. Sustained stress has profoundly degenerative effects over time. It can damage memory neurons, inhibit the production of beneficial hormones, and contribute significantly to depression, irritability, insomnia, anxiety, high blood pressure. The list goes on. A lifestyle just steeped in chronic, unmanaged stress effectively accelerates premature aging across multiple systems in the body.
So, managing this modern stress isn't just about feeling better day to day. It's presented as a fundamental anti-aging strategy. And the source positions mindfulness as a powerful tool here.
Mindfulness is presented as a really vital prevention tool. Its core practice is basically focusing your attention on the present moment, being fully conscious in the here and now, noticing your thoughts, your feelings, even your habitual responses, but without judgment.
Stepping off the mental hamster wheel.
Exactly. It helps you stop that spiraling worry about the past or future. There's a relatable anecdote about Roberto Alcibar, who became a mindfulness instructor. He noticed people so distracted while eating or on the phone that they weren't even conscious of the food they were putting in their mouths or the conversation they were supposedly having. Mindfulness helps you reclaim that presence.
And practices like meditation, simple breathing exercises, or body scans are suggested as ways to cultivate this state.
Yes, those are the pathways. It definitely requires consistent practice, but the ability to filter out the external noise, ground yourself in the present, and just observe thoughts without being totally consumed by them, it's incredibly effective at reducing stress and therefore supporting longevity.
But the source adds a fascinating little twist here, a nuance about stress. Not all stress is bad.
That's right. While chronic, unmanaged stress is clearly detrimental, low levels of positive stress, sometimes called eustress, can actually be beneficial. The source cites a study by Dr. Howard S. Friedman, which found that people who maintained a low level of stress from engaging in challenging work and putting effort into life actually lived longer than those who retired early and adopted a very relaxed, unchallenged lifestyle.
That feels a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? We usually hear, take it easy for longevity.
It does, but the theory explored is that purposeful effort, facing challenges, staying engaged, it might naturally encourage healthier habits, maybe less time for unhealthy pursuits, more reason to maintain physical and mental fitness. The source notes that many supercentenarians talk about having lived intense, busy lives, often continuing to work or pursue their passions well into what we'd consider retirement age.
And speaking of things that contribute negatively to aging, the sedentary lifestyle gets called out as a major culprit, especially in the West.
Oh, massively. Spending excessive amounts of time sitting, whether it's at a desk or on the sofa, is strongly linked to a whole host of chronic diseases. Hypertension, obesity, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, even certain types of cancer. It decreases your fitness, can increase your appetite, and it just diminishes your desire for physical activity.
And it affects those telomeres again.
Yes, the source specifically mentions how lack of movement seems to distort the telomeres in our immune system cells, accelerating their aging and the aging of the entire organism. And this isn't just an issue for older adults, it's impacting kids too. There's a stark quote from Gavin Bradley. After just 2 hours of sitting, enzymes that move bad fat from your arteries slow down, and good cholesterol levels drop significantly.
Wow. So even just simple movement breaks are vital.
Absolutely crucial.
Okay, so putting these points together, what are some of the practical anti-aging habits the source recommends, drawing from that Okinawan lifestyle and this body-mind connection?
They are surprisingly simple, really, and they align perfectly with the principles we've been discussing. Things like make an effort to participate in social and leisure activities to cut down on passive screen time. Consciously replace processed junk food with fruits and vegetables. This helps reduce snacking urges and gives you essential nutrients. Prioritize getting enough sleep. The guideline is usually 7 to 9 hours, but interestingly, too much sleep can also lead to lethargy.
Right, it's about balance.
Exactly. Engage in physical play, maybe with children, pets, or joining a casual sports group. And crucially, become more conscious of your daily routine. Identify those unhealthy habits, like prolonged sitting or mindless eating, and actively work to replace them with positive ones.
And the mental side of this, the anti-aging attitudes, seem just as important, if not more so.
Absolutely. The power of the mind over our physical state as we age is presented as immense. Doctors and researchers agree that keeping the mind active, which again is central to Ikigai and maintaining resilience, refusing to give in when facing difficulties, are crucial.
There was a study mentioned.
Yes, the Yeshiva University study linked a positive attitude and high emotional awareness directly to living longer. Facing life's inevitable challenges with optimism and managing emotions effectively seems to build this inner strength that contributes to longevity. The Stoic attitude, cultivating serenity in the face of setbacks, focusing on what you can control, is presented as a way to lower that chronic anxiety and stress.
And many centenarians seem to embody this.
Yes, many are described as having faced significant challenges but maintained a remarkably positive outlook. Alexander Imich, who lived to 111 when asked his secret, apparently said something like, "The life you live is equally or more important for longevity than any single biological factor."
It's that synergy again, the mind supporting the body and the body supporting the mind. They're not separate.
Precisely. They are completely inseparable. And the source includes this really beautiful, simple Japanese proverb. If you keep moving with your fingers working, 100 years will come to you.
I like that.
It's such a poetic way of capturing the essence. Staying physically and mentally engaged, even in the small detailed tasks, is a pathway to a long and vibrant life. The anti-aging secrets aren't just biological tweaks. They are rooted in lifestyle, mindset, and purposeful activity, reinforcing that deep body-mind connection that is so fundamental to the whole Ikigai philosophy.
Okay, so we've established what Ikigai is. It's linked to longevity and how the mind and body are intertwined in aging. The natural question then becomes, how do you actually find this purpose, this Ikigai? The source turns to psychology here and introduces Viktor Frankl and his school of logotherapy.
Right, logotherapy. Frankl developed this based on his own, frankly, harrowing experiences in concentration camps during World War II. It's defined as a therapeutic approach focused specifically on helping people find reasons to live.
How does it differ from traditional psychoanalysis?
Well, the source contrasts it, maybe a bit humorously, noting that in logotherapy, the patient sits up straight and listens to hard truths, while in psychoanalysis, they often lie down and tell hard truths. But the fundamental difference, Frankl argued, lies in their focus. Logotherapy delves into the spiritual dimension, the inherent human drive to search for meaning, whereas he saw psychoanalysis as more limited, primarily exploring instincts and past experiences.
And the power of logotherapy seems to be that it actively engages the patient in consciously discovering their life's purpose, using that as a tool to confront psychological issues and overcome obstacles.
Exactly. The very quest to fulfill their unique destiny becomes the primary motivation for progress and healing. Frankl's research in his Vienna clinic was revealing. He found that a significant portion of his patients, he estimated as many as 55% in one study, were experiencing some level of what he called existential crisis or existential frustration.
That feeling of emptiness, right?
Right.
When life lacks direction or just feels meaningless.
Yes, it's that discomfort, that suffering that arises when life feels devoid of purpose, or when our daily actions feel completely disconnected from our deeper values or inner desires. The source notes this frustration can manifest in unhealthy ways, people desperately seeking fulfillment through, say, material wealth, shallow pleasures, or trying to numb their senses.
And in extreme cases.
Frankl linked it to depression and even suicidal thoughts. A relatable example given is Sunday neurosis, that feeling of inner emptiness that can hit when the distractions and structure of the work week fade away on the weekend, leaving you confronted with a lack of deeper meaning. The solution, according to logotherapy and echoing the Ikigai philosophy, lies in actively finding or creating purpose.
The book shares some incredibly powerful case studies from Frankl's work that really illustrate how meaning can be found, even in the absolute darkest moments of suffering or loss.
These anecdotes really hit home, don't they? There's the American diplomat, a man who seemingly had everything, success, status, but felt this profound emptiness, a lack of clear purpose despite all his achievements.
And the suicidal mother. That story was intense.
Incredibly moving. She was planning to end her life, just overwhelmed by despair. Frankl asked her to imagine herself on her deathbed, looking back. Through this visualization, she suddenly saw the immense value her life had already held through her unwavering devotion to her paralyzed son. She realized her suffering wasn't meaningless. It was, in a way, the price she paid for a life of profound love and sacrifice. Seeing that her life was far from a failure, that it had deep meaning through her selfless actions, brought her a sense of peace and a reason to choose life.
Wow. And the grief-stricken doctor's story is equally poignant.
Yes, this elderly doctor was just consumed by grief after his wife died. Frankl asked him a simple but profound question. What would have happened if you had died first? The doctor immediately replied it would have been devastating for his wife. She would have suffered terribly. Frankl gently responded, "You see, doctor, you have spared her all that suffering, but the price you have to pay for this is to survive and mourn her."
That completely reframes the pain.
It does. It reframed the doctor's intense pain not as senseless suffering, but as a meaningful sacrifice, the price he paid to spare his beloved wife that same agony. These stories really demonstrate that purpose and meaning aren't always about achieving grand external goals. They can be found or revealed in our relationships, our sacrifices, and even in how we choose to face suffering.
The source also introduces another purpose-centered therapy, this one from Japan, Morita therapy.
Right, Shoma Morita. He developed this therapy heavily influenced by Zen Buddhism around the same time as Frankl's work. It's apparently been particularly effective for anxiety-based disorders. A key difference from many Western therapies that try to change how you feel is Morita's focus on accepting emotions, seeing them as uncontrollable, like the weather.
So you don't fight your feelings.
You don't fight them. The core idea is that while you can't directly command your feelings, your emotions will eventually change as a result of your actions.
So it's about acting correctly, despite how you feel at the moment.
Precisely. Morita's core principles are quite direct. First, accept your feelings. Don't fight or suppress them. Welcome them like temporary guests. Acknowledge their presence, hello solitude, without letting them dictate your actions. Emotions are seen as transient waves, not fixed states. Second, do what you should be doing. Focus your attention on the present moment and the necessary actions required by the situation rather than getting bogged down trying to eliminate your symptoms. Morita believed character and confidence are built through purposeful action, not just endlessly analyzing your feelings. Real learning comes from experience.
Now the third principle.
Discover your life's purpose. This is crucial. While your emotions are outside your direct control, your actions are. Having a clear sense of purpose provides the essential guidance for which actions to take. Morita's guiding question was often something like, what do we need to be doing right now? What actions should we be taking? And that inherently requires looking inward to understand your values, your Ikigai tai.
The source briefly mentions the structured approach of Morita therapy, the 4 phases.
It does. Isolation, light work, heavy work, and life training. It suggests a gradual process. Confronting oneself without distraction, then reintegrating through simple tasks, then engaging in more demanding activities while practicing acceptance, and finally applying these principles to everyday life. The source also touches on Nikan meditation, another introspective Japanese practice focused on reflecting on relationships, asking what you've received, given, and what problems you've caused to shift focus from blame towards personal responsibility.
Okay, so bringing these therapeutic approaches back to Ikigai, it seems the path isn't just about thinking about your purpose, but actively moving towards it.
That seems to be the connection, yes. It involves aligning your actions with your values, cultivating resilience to stay on course when things get tough, building healthy habits to support the journey, and finding real engagement in the process itself. And that leads us nicely into the idea of flow.
Right. These psychological frameworks give you the tools to maybe uncover or clarify your Ikigai and deal with those feelings of emptiness that can stop you. And once you have a sense of direction, finding that deep engagement, that state of flow, becomes incredibly powerful in living that purpose every single day.
Exactly.
And that brings us perfectly to the concept of flow, introduced by the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. The source describes it as a fundamental ingredient for living according to your Ikigai.
Flow, it's that state of complete absorption, total immersion in an activity. The book uses that wonderful analogy of a skier just perfectly navigating a slope. Nothing else matters. You lose track of time, you lose track of yourself even, feeling utterly unified with what you're doing.
Bruce Lee's Be Water, my friend, captures a similar feeling.
Yeah, that idea of effortless responsiveness when you're fully engaged. We've probably all experienced this in some form, right? Getting lost for hours cooking, deep in a great book, engrossed in a craft, or maybe problem solving at work. Time just seems to disappear. And Csikszentmihalyi's research into this state, which he called optimal experience, found it's profoundly linked to happiness. And importantly, it's not just for artistic geniuses or elite athletes. It can be experienced by anyone, a gardener, a surgeon, a teacher, a programmer, even just someone reading a book that perfectly matches their level of challenge and interest. The feeling of flow is remarkably consistent across cultures and ages.
And what's happening in the mind when it's in this state? What characterizes it?
The source notes that during flow, the mind is essentially in order. It's singularly focused on the task at hand without all the usual internal clutter and distractions that occupy our thoughts. This focused attention is absolutely critical for getting into and staying in flow.
The source lists 7 conditions that tend to be present when we experience flow, based on researcher Owen Schaffer's work.
Yes, let's see. 1, knowing exactly what to do. 2, knowing how to do it. 3, having clear feedback on how well you're doing. 4, knowing where to go next, having a clear direction. 5, perceiving significant challenges that stretch your abilities. 6, perceiving significant skills that match those challenges, that balance is key. And 7, being free from distractions.
Okay, let's break down some strategies for achieving flow based on those conditions. The first one, choose the right challenge.
This is all about finding that sweet spot, right? Between the difficulty of the task and your own skill level. If the task is too easy, you get bored pretty quickly, leading to apathy. If it's way too difficult and you feel you lack the skills, you just get frustrated and are likely to give up. The ideal state for flow is a task that presents a meaningful challenge, one that stretches your existing skills just a little bit.
Like that Hemingway quote.
Exactly. Sometimes I write better than I can. That feeling of pushing your limits slightly is key.
Strategy 2. Have a clear objective, but focus relentlessly on the process.
Right. You need a concrete goal. Initially, the source uses the analogy of a compass pointing you towards a destination. Knowing the general direction is more important than having a detailed map of every single step beforehand. But, and this is crucial, once the activity actually begins, you have to shift your focus entirely to the process, the doing, the moment-to-moment engagement, rather than obsessing over the final outcome.
Like the Olympic athlete thinking only about the gold medal and messing up.
Precisely that example. Outcome obsession leads to mental blocks, like writer's block. Flow happens when you commit to taking those first small steps and just become completely absorbed in the act itself. The source quotes Einstein. "A happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell on the future."
And maybe the single biggest obstacle to flow in our hyper-connected modern world relates to strategy 3, concentrating on a single task.
This is presented as possibly the most important factor for achieving flow today. Multitasking, as we usually think of it, is a major enemy of flow. The source explains that our brains don't truly process multiple complex things simultaneously. They're actually rapidly switching between tasks.
Context switching. I've heard it's inefficient.
Incredibly inefficient. It wastes cognitive energy, apparently reduces productivity by up to 60%, and can even temporarily lower your effective IQ. There's a study mentioned with red and blue arrows where people trying to multitask were much more distracted by irrelevant information. Single tasking, dedicating your full attention to one thing, is just essential for entering that focused flow state.
So how do we fight this constant battle against distraction and actually create an environment where focus and flow can happen?
The source offers a whole toolkit of practical tips, drawing from insights into how our brains work. Things like turn off phone notifications completely, or use do not disturb modes for set periods. Maybe schedule technological fasting days. Seek out environments designed for focus libraries, maybe even Wi-Fi-free cafes. Batch your email responses, check and reply only at specific times rather than constantly reacting.
The Pomodoro technique is mentioned too, right?
Yes. Working intensely on one task for a set period, say 25 minutes, followed by a short break, then repeating the cycle. Establish small rituals to start your focused work and maybe give yourself small rewards when you complete a block. Practice training your mind to gently return to the present moment when it wanders. Meditation or short mindful walks can help here. Designate a specific workspace free from distractions if you can. Batch routine, less demanding tasks together to handle them efficiently.
The contrast between flow and distraction is really stark.
It is. The source lists it out. Flow gives you a focused mind, living in the present, freedom from worry, hours flying by, feeling in control, clarity, a pleasant state. Distraction gives you a wandering mind, dwelling on the past future, constant concerns, minutes feeling endless, losing control, doubts, feeling bored or exhausted. It's a clear choice.
The source really brings this idea of intense focus and dedication to life, with examples of Japanese takumis, these artisans and masters.
Yes, the Japanese spirit of ganbaru, that perseverance, doing your absolute best, is beautifully illustrated through these individuals. They embody intense focus, sometimes bordering on obsession, applying it even to seemingly simple tasks.
Think of the makeup brush maker.
Yeah, the Kumano makeup brush takumi, whose hands just intricately work with each individual bristle, or Steve Jobs' fascination with Yukio Shakanaga, the pottery takumi who literally dug his own clay and described becoming one with his material, or Jiro Ono from Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Amazing documentary.
Making sushi every day for over 80 years, still learning, still finding flow in the meticulous precision of his kitchen. These are people who live their ikigai through relentless dedication to their craft, finding deep satisfaction in the process itself, constantly seeking tiny improvements.
It's that attention to detail, that sort of sophisticated simplicity that seems to drive their continuous challenge and fuel their flow.
And Hayao Miyazaki, the legendary Studio Ghibli director, is another perfect example mentioned. He's described as a Takumi director, famously resisting computer animation to hand-draw everything. He requires intense focus, apparently hates being bothered while drawing, and his passion is so deeply his ikigai that he's returned to work even after announcing retirement multiple times.
The concept of microflow is also mentioned, which makes flow feel a bit more accessible, maybe.
Definitely. Microflow is about finding those moments of flow in routine, even mundane tasks. It's approaching activities like washing dishes, commuting, organizing, approaching them with a heightened sense of focus, attention to detail, perhaps setting simple, self-imposed rules or sequences.
Like Bill Gates washing dishes.
Exactly. Bill Gates washing dishes in a precise order to unwind, or the Tokyo elevator operator performing a specific sequence of movements, or Richard Feynman finding creative respite in microflow in simple tasks like painting walls or soldering. It shows that flow isn't exclusive to grand creative projects. It's a mental state you can cultivate in almost anything you do.
So using flow can actually help you find your ikigai.
Absolutely. The source suggests a really practical way to do this. Make a list of all the activities where you regularly experience flow, then analyze them. What do those activities have in common? Are you usually alone or with others? Are they primarily physical or mental? Once you identify patterns, use that insight to explore new, similar activities out of curiosity.
Like going from photography to painting, maybe?
Exactly. The ability to enter flow is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the more you can apply it. And the more you find activities where you consistently enter flow, the closer you get to identifying what truly engages you at a deep level. And often, that's your ikigai calling out to you. Cultivating flow just dramatically increases the enjoyment and fulfillment you get from your daily life.
That's incredibly practical advice.
Yeah.
Okay, we've explored what ikigai is, how it links to longevity, the body-mind connection, the quest for purpose, and the power of flow. Now let's turn to the voices of experience, the wisdom distilled from masters of longevity, including some incredible supercentenarians.
Right, supercentenarians. These are individuals who've reached the really remarkable age of 110 or older. While their numbers are still relatively small globally, their existence offers this unique window into what living a truly long life entails, and their perspectives are just invaluable.
The source shares some of their incredibly simple, often really pragmatic secrets.
They are surprisingly down-to-earth, aren't they? Misao Okawa, from Japan, lived to 117. She attributed her long life to just two things: eat and sleep, and you'll live a long time. You have to learn to relax. Simple as that.
Wow. And Maria Capovilla from Ecuador
lived to 116. She mentioned never eating meat, but also highlighted just being happy, enjoying dancing, crafts, and prayer.
And the oldest verified person ever, Jeanne Calment from France, who lived to 122. Her attitude sounds amazing.
She apparently lived a life filled with enjoyment, famously rode a bicycle until she was 100, Her sense of humor was legendary. On her 120th birthday, she apparently quipped, "I see badly, I hear badly, and I feel bad, but everything's fine."
Huh. That's fantastic.
Walter Bruning, reached 114 in the U.S., advised keeping your mind and body busy, eating only 2 meals a day, helping others, and facing the end of life without fear. "You're born to die," he said simply. Alexander Imik, a chemist and parapsychologist who lived to 111, attributed his longevity partly to not drinking alcohol and responded with great humility when asked his secret, saying something like, "I don't know, I just haven't died yet."
What's striking is how these seemingly simple pieces of advice, coming from different cultures, different intense personal histories, they all seem to converge on this idea that living a life engaged with purpose, community, and moderation is the real secret, rather than some magic pill or extreme diet.
Exactly. And the source also extends this idea beyond just the record-breaking centenarians to highly accomplished individuals in various fields who remained active and passionate well into very old age. Their dedication to their ikigai, their life's work or passion, seems to be a key factor in their continued vibrancy and longevity.
Like the artist Hokusai.
Yeah, Hokusai, the Japanese artist who felt his work before age 70 wasn't even worth counting and aimed to master art fully by 110. Or author T.H. White seeking something to love, never exhaust, never regret. Naturalist Edward O. Wilson still tackling big questions late in his life. Astonished others weren't. Artists like Ellsworth Kelly working intensely at 90, or architect Frank Gehry emphasizing staying curious, reading the newspaper, keeping his eyes and ears open to remain in your time.
The common thread connecting these ordinary centenarians and these renowned masters, it seems to be this powerful desire to stay engaged, active, curious, and often focused on something larger than themselves, their ikigai.
That's the fundamental insight from this section, I think. While genetics undoubtedly play a role, the attitude, the habits, and the continued purposeful engagement exemplified by these masters of longevity really underscore the very practical power of living a life rooted in ikigai. Their simple advice echoes the broader principles we're uncovering, highlighting that living a full life right up to the very end is absolutely within reach.
To truly understand these principles in action, the source takes us deep into the core setting, the village of Ogimi itself. The authors share their experience arriving there. It sounds quite beautiful.
Yes, they describe flying into Naha, the capital of Okinawa, and then traveling north towards Ogimi, which is nestled in this lush, green jungle area called Yanbaru. Their local guides, a Mr. Taira and a Mrs. Yuki, introduced them to the rhythm of the town. The residents seemed almost hidden away in the greenery, but were apparently incredibly welcoming, full of laughter and jokes, surrounded by rolling hills and clear waters.
And they quickly sensed the incredibly strong fabric of community life there.
Oh, absolutely. The Moai groups we mentioned earlier are central to this. Mr. Taira explained how these informal, almost family-like support networks, often centered around shared interests, are a defining characteristic of Ogimi. They provide mutual aid, emotional support, and that financial stability through their shared funds, ensuring no one is truly alone or left struggling. It creates this profound sense of belonging.
And volunteer work is common too.
Deeply ingrained. Everyone contributes, and the local government helps coordinate tasks. This ensures every individual, regardless of age, feels useful and an integral part of the community fabric. Community service just naturally becomes woven into one's personal ikigai.
It sounds like life there isn't just about work or obligation. There's a deep culture of celebration described.
Very much so. Celebrations are presented as an essential, joyful part of their daily and weekly rhythm. Not just major milestones, but even smaller birthdays for people turning 89, 94, 99, even 104. Festivals, spontaneous music, singing, and dancing are apparently frequent occurrences.
And they lost a game of gateball to a 104-year-old.
Ah, yes. They recount humorously losing a game of gateball, which is a sort of low-impact croquet played with mallets to a 104-year-old woman, with everyone, including her, finding it absolutely hilarious. It just shows that spirit of playful competition and continued activity, regardless of age.
There's also a strong sense of spirituality and connection to nature mentioned.
Briefly, yes. Mentioned is the local Shinto spirituality, with its reverence for kami, the spirits residing in nature, and local sprites like the Bunagaya. This connection isn't just abstract, it's woven into their daily lives. They appreciate the blessings of their lush environment, the pure longevity water from a local spring. And their near-universal habit of gardening isn't just about food, it's a daily reconnection with the earth. A form of moving meditation, perhaps, grounding them deeply to the natural world.
And the heart of this section is really the cumulative wisdom gleaned from interviewing 100 elders in Ogimi. What were the key themes that kept coming up?
Several powerful yet remarkably simple themes resonated across those interviews. First, consistently, was don't worry. They repeatedly advised letting go of anxiety with phrases like, the secret, not to worry, keep your heart young, and smile and open your heart.
Yeah, that sounds easier said than done.
Doesn't it? But it was a consistent message. Second was cultivate good habits. Gardening was almost universal. Elders said things like, I plant my own vegetables and cook them myself. That's my ikigai. They emphasized that working with your fingers keeps the brain sharp, eating a variety of foods, a bit of everything, staying busy if you don't work, your body breaks down, having regular routines, waking early, gardening, doing those Taiso exercises, walking, and crucially, spending time with people were all highlighted.
Nurturing friendship and living an unhurried life were also prominent themes.
Yes, the importance of spending time with friends, being part of groups like the Moai, came up again and again. And living an unhurried life, taking it slow, living peacefully, and enjoying the little things, and managing their time to do many different things every day without getting overwhelmed, were noted as keys to their contentment.
And what about their general outlook? Optimism, resilience.
Absolutely essential, it seems. Be optimistic was a core attitude. It was evident in their daily positive self-talk. Today will be full of health and energy. Live it to the fullest. And their ability to find joy in simple things, like enjoying each season, spring, summer, fall, winter, enjoying each season happily. Resilience was mentioned in how they faced challenges without being crushed by them. And of course, that connection with nature was seen as fundamental to living in a place blessed by nature.
There's that sign mentioned, the declaration from the town where people live longest.
Yes, the text from that sign beautifully summarizes much of this. It emphasizes staying strong as you age. At 80, I am still a child, the older the stronger. Maintaining independence, let us not depend too much on our children, being blessed by nature, and collectively discovering the secret together. It's quite poetic.
So the picture of the Ogini lifestyle that emerges from these interviews is incredibly clear and consistent.
It really is. If you summarize the common threads you get, almost universal participation in gardening, deep involvement in neighborhood associations, and moai, a culture of constant celebration, music, song, dance, having a clear, important purpose or ikigai, but one that's approached with relaxation and enjoyment, pride in their local traditions, a strong sense of yuimaru, that's mutual help and communal effort, like helping with field work or building houses, being consistently busy, but primarily with relaxing and fulfilling tasks, and notably, a complete absence of just sitting around doing nothing.
So Ogimi isn't just a place with high life expectancy statistics. It's presented as a vibrant, living blueprint for how these principles of ikigai, community engagement, and a positive outlook are actually integrated into daily life.
Exactly. It serves as this powerful example. This community demonstrates how interconnectedness, moi, yumaru, continuous engagement, staying busy, gardening, and a joyful, accepting outlook on life and aging can create a really robust foundation for both longevity and happiness. It shows that these aren't just abstract concepts, they are woven into the very fabric of daily interactions and activities, providing a tangible model for cultivating these qualities in any setting, really, no matter where you happen to live.
Okay, moving from the community and lifestyle to the fuel for that life, the source delves into the Ikigai diet. We know Japan consistently leads the world in life expectancy, and Okinawa, even within Japan, is exceptional.
Yes, according to the WHO data cited, Japan has the highest life expectancy globally, and Okinawans, particularly women, live even longer than the mainland Japanese average. The source also notes the significant health improvements seen in Okinawa since the end of World War II.
So what are the defining characteristics of the traditional Okinawan diet described in the book?
Well, the core elements seem to be nutrient density and incredible variety. Okinawans traditionally eat a really wide range of foods, often up to 18 different types in a single day, and they consume a very high amount of fruits and vegetables, at least 5 servings, typically 7 or more different types daily. The source suggests thinking eat the rainbow as a simple way to ensure this variety.
What are the key staples?
Key staples mentioned include tofu, sweet potatoes, which historically provided a large percentage of their calories, lots of other vegetables, and fish, consumed maybe around 3 times per week. Interestingly, their traditional diet apparently involves less rice compared to the rest of mainland Japan.
And a crucial element we touched on earlier, hara hachibu, that 80% rule.
This gets revisited and really emphasized. It's the practice of stopping eating when you feel about 80% full, not completely stuffed or uncomfortable. The source reinforces its ancient origins, linking it back to 12th century Zen texts that recommended eating only 2/3 of what you might desire.
And using smaller plates helps.
Yes, using smaller plates and also chopsticks, which naturally encourage slower eating, are presented as practical strategies that help Okinawans adhere to this principle, leading them to consume fewer calories per meal almost automatically.
And why might this practice of eating less potentially translate to living longer? What's the theory?
Well, the source discusses the theory that consuming fewer calories overall while still getting adequate nutrition, that's important, reduces the cumulative wear and tear on the body. Less energy is expended on constant heavy digestion. It's also linked to reducing the levels of IGF-1, or insulin-like growth factor 1.
IGF-1.
Yeah, it's a protein associated with cellular growth and aging. The theory is that lower levels of IGF-1, often seen in calorie-restricted states, seem to slow down the aging process at a cellular level in many organisms, possibly including humans.
And there's growing scientific data supporting the benefits of moderate calorie restriction more broadly.
Yes. Increasingly, studies suggest that a moderately lower caloric intake, provided it's nutritionally complete, offers significant protection against common age-related diseases like obesity, type 2 diabetes, inflammation, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease. It also appears to reduce metabolic risk factors for certain cancers. The source also briefly mentions alternative approaches, like intermittent fasting, such as the 5.2 diet, as ways to potentially achieve similar benefits without daily restriction.
Tea seems to be another really significant component of the Okinawan diet.
Definitely. Sanpincha, which is a popular local blend of jasmine flowers and green tea, is consumed widely, often around 3 cups a day. Specific benefits attributed to it in the source include reducing blood cholesterol, strengthening the immune system, stress relief, and lowering cholesterol again.
And green tea in general.
Green tea is highlighted for its numerous scientifically confirmed benefits, potent antioxidants, ability to lower blood sugar, improve circulation, protect against flu and UV damage, support bone health, provide cleansing effects. It's quite a list. White tea is even mentioned as potentially having even stronger anti-aging properties due to its very high concentration of polyphenols.
The source also lists some broad categories of Ikigai superfoods.
Yeah, these are general categories of healthy, antioxidant-rich foods that are staples in the traditional Okinawan diet and align with longevity research overall. Things like a wide variety of vegetables, legumes, fruits, various teas, soy products like tofu, seaweed, whole grains, Beatrice in moderation, fish, olives, rich and healthy fats, though maybe more Mediterranean, included as generally healthy, and herbs. Conversely, the source lists foods to significantly reduce or eliminate refined sugar and grains, processed baked goods, prepared convenience foods, and conventional cow's milk and its derivatives.
So the Ikigai diet isn't presented as some restrictive fad diet, but more as a pattern of mindful eating.
Precisely. It's framed not as a rigid set of rules, but as a sustainable pattern characterized by nutrient density from a wide variety of plant-based foods, moderation, that crucial 80% rule, and incorporating beneficial beverages like tea. This aligns strongly with broader scientific understanding of healthy aging through diet and just underscores how conscious food choices are a fundamental component of the overall Ikigai lifestyle, fueling both body and mind for longevity.
Okay, moving from what fuels the body to how it moves. The source highlights the importance of gentle exercises for a longer life. A key finding from those Blue Zone studies isn't necessarily about hitting the gym intensely, is it?
That's right. It's the consistent, low-intensity movement that's naturally integrated into daily life that seems most strongly linked to longevity across these populations.
Yeah.
The Ogimi centenarians aren't typically described as, powerlifting. They are constantly engaged in tasks that involve gentle movement, gardening, walking, participating in community activities.
And the source reiterates the detrimental impact of prolonged sitting, which we discussed earlier in the context of anti-aging.
Yes, and it really drives the point home again. Elaborating on Gavin Bradley's findings, sitting for even just 2 hours slows down those enzymes that process bad fats in our arteries. Prolonged sitting contributes to a multitude of diseases and accelerates cellular aging. The simple insight here is that movement breaks are absolutely essential to counter this, even if it's just standing up and walking around for a few minutes every hour.
The source introduces several Eastern mind-body disciplines as accessible ways to incorporate this kind of daily movement.
Right. Yoga, which originated in India, and Tai Chi and Qigong from China, all apparently widely practiced and appreciated in Japan. These are ancient systems designed specifically to promote balance and harmony between the body, mind, and spirit. They offer structured yet gentle ways to incorporate daily movement, and their focus on breath and presence also supports achieving that state of flow we talked about earlier.
And then there's that unique, almost charming Japanese phenomenon, radio taiso.
This is fascinating. It's a series of short, very low-intensity calisthenics, just 5–10 minutes long, broadcast on the radio every morning, apparently since the 1920s.
Wow, that long?
Yeah. Its purpose is multifaceted. It promotes a spirit of unity because it's often done in groups, in parks or workplaces. It gently wakes up the body, and it improves joint mobility, targeting movements for joints often neglected in modern sedentary life, like raising your arms fully overhead. Apparently, around 30% of the Japanese population practices it daily, and it was a common habit among the Ogimi centenarians, even those with limited mobility. It's a perfect example of simple, accessible, consistent movement for everyone.
The source also gives a brief overview of the practices of yoga, tai chi, and qigong themselves.
Yes, it offers a little taste of each. Yoga, meaning yoke, is described as being about uniting the body and mind, connecting with nature, and purifying oneself physically and mentally. It briefly mentions different paths or styles and walks through the 12 steps of the sun salutation sequence as a common example.
And tai chi.
Tai Chi, originally a Chinese martial art, evolved into a practice focused on health and well-being. It emphasizes gentle, flowing movements, agility over brute force, and the power of the mind guiding the body. It mentions different styles and describes the graceful wave hands like clouds movement as an illustration.
Good.
Qigong, meaning life force work, is rooted in ancient Taoist practices. It involves both static postures and dynamic movements designed to stimulate energy flow, combining gentle physical activity with breath work. Studies cited show significant health benefits: positive changes in brain waves, improved immune function, lower blood pressure and cholesterol, better circulation, and reduced stress, insomnia, and depression. It describes the concept of regulating the body, breath, mind, energy, and spirit as a preparatory practice, and mentions the 5 elements Qigong sequence for balancing energy.
And the common thread weaving through all these different practices, what's the key element?
It's the emphasis on combining physical movement with a conscious awareness of breath. This focus on breath is absolutely key. It helps bring consciousness into the body. It anchors you in the present moment, and it acts as a powerful tool to quiet the mind and reduce daily worries. The source notes that most people are just not consciously aware of their breathing throughout the day.
So these Eastern disciplines, and even something as simple as radio taiso, are presented not just as forms of exercise, but as mindful practices that integrate movement, breath, and presence.
Exactly. They offer accessible ways for anyone to counter sedentary habits, cultivate harmony between their body and mind, and contribute to that pattern of consistent daily activity seen in the world's longevity zones. It's about weaving physical well-being seamlessly into the pursuit of Ikigai.
Okay, finally, let's explore how the source suggests navigating life's inevitable challenges. This section focuses on resilience and the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi. What does resilience mean in this context?
Resilience is defined pretty much as you'd expect. The ability to bounce back from setbacks, to persevere when things get tough, to stay focused on what truly matters, and to adapt effectively to change. The Japanese proverb, "Nana korobi ya oki," fall 7 times, rise 8, is presented as a beautiful, simple embodiment of this spirit.
It's not about never falling.
Exactly. It's about the commitment to always getting back up.
And the source explores how ancient wisdom, specifically Buddhism and Stoicism, offer powerful tools for cultivating this emotional resilience.
Yes, though they're distinct philosophies, both offer pathways to managing those negative emotions and desires that can really derail us. Buddhism, through Siddhartha Gautama's search for enlightenment, teaches finding a middle way enjoying life's pleasures, but remaining mindful that we don't become enslaved by them. This prevents suffering when they inevitably change or disappear.
And Stoicism.
The Stoicism, founded by Zeno of Citium, similarly teaches accepting pleasures when they come, but mentally preparing for their potential disappearance. The ultimate goal in Stoicism is apatheia, not apathy as we think of it today, but a state of profound tranquility achieved through the absence of disturbing negative feelings like anxiety, fear, anger, and the presence of positive ones, happiness, love, serenity, gratitude. They highlight the human tendency towards insatiable desire and the futility of basing our happiness on external things we can't ultimately control.
So what practices did these philosophies actually employ to build this inner strength?
Well, the Stoics had this really powerful practice called negative visualization. It sounds counterintuitive, maybe even morbid.
Yeah, imagining bad things happening.
Exactly. It involves actively imagining the worst-case scenarios, losing your possessions, your health, your loved ones. But this isn't about dwelling on negativity. It's a form of mental preparation. It reduces the shock if these things do happen, and, perhaps more importantly, it deepens your appreciation for everything you have right now. Seneca, who was a wealthy Stoic, apparently practiced living without his luxuries periodically, just to truly understand what losing them would entail and confirm to himself that he could cope. This practice helps you answer the question, what's the worst thing that could happen? And realize you're probably more capable of handling adversity than you think.
And meditation plays a role too.
Yes, mindfulness and meditation, central to both Buddhism and Stoicism, also build resilience by helping you observe your thoughts and emotions, including negative ones, without being completely swept away or identified with them. The Buddhist mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, is mentioned in relation to purifying negative states of mind.
And a core principle shared by both philosophies is the absolute necessity of focusing on what you can control.
Right. This is perhaps the most practical takeaway. Both Stoicism and Buddhism teach us to direct our energy and concern towards what is within our sphere of influence, our own attitude, our actions, our reactions to events, and to accept what is not, which is basically almost everything external that happens to us.
Like the Serenity Prayer.
Exactly. The widely known Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, perfectly encapsulates this ancient wisdom. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, stated it very plainly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters.
The source also emphasizes the importance of living in the present moment and embracing the concept of impermanence.
Both philosophies stress that the only reality we truly possess is the here and now, as Thich Nhat Hanh emphasizes. The Stoics reflected deeply on impermanence, recognizing that everything in the external world, including our physical bodies and even our loved ones, is temporary. Marcus Aurelius used the analogy of generations of leaves falling from a tree. This awareness isn't meant to breed sadness, but rather to deepen our appreciation for the present moment and the preciousness of what we have right now. Seneca wrote, "All things human are short-lived and perishable."
And Japan offers its own beautiful aesthetic concepts that relate directly to this acceptance of imperfection and the transient nature of life.
Yes, wabi-sabi and ichigo-ichi. Wabi-sabi is this Japanese aesthetic and worldview that finds profound beauty in imperfection, incompleteness, and the ephemeral. Think of a perfectly imperfect, cracked teacup that's been lovingly repaired with gold leaf kintsugi, telling the story of its history and resilience.
Right, it's beautiful because it's flawed and repaired.
Exactly. It stands in contrast to Western ideals often focused on seeking perfection and permanence, like building grand structures of stone meant to last forever. Japanese wooden architecture, in contrast, accepts that buildings will age and eventually need to be rebuilt, embracing transience. Wabi-sabi is about accepting the natural cycle of growth, decay, and the transient nature of life and all creations.
And ichigo-ichi.
Ichigo-ichi translates roughly to, this moment exists only now and won't come again. It's a powerful reminder to be fully present and to cherish each unique encounter, each conversation, each moment, because it is absolutely unrepeatable. This concept is central to Japanese tea ceremonies, Zen practice, and martial arts training. Both wabi-sabi and ichigo-ichi help us accept what we cannot control, the passage of time, the ephemeral nature of the world, and focus our energy and appreciation squarely on the present.
The source then introduces a modern concept that takes resilience a step further. Anti-fragility, from Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
Yeah, Taleb's concept is really fascinating. Resilience means you can withstand harm and maybe return to your original state. Anti-fragility, however, means you actually gain strength, improve, or benefit from disorder, stress, or challenges, like the mythical Hydra growing two heads back when one is cut off.
So fragile breaks, resilient withstands, anti-fragile improves.
Exactly. The source clearly contrasts fragile, weakened by harm, robust or resilient, withstands harm, and anti-fragile actually gains from harm. The example of the Fukushima disaster is used. Some towns were fragile and couldn't recover. Others were resilient and rebuilt. The nuclear plant was fragile and failed catastrophically. But the construction companies, perhaps unfortunately, were anti-fragile. They gained significantly from the catastrophe.
So how can we cultivate this anti-fragility in our own lives?
Yeah.
How can we benefit from the disorder that life inevitably throws at us?
The source outlines 3 key strategies from Taleb's work. First, create redundancies. Avoid having a single point of failure in critical areas of your life. This could mean having multiple sources of income or strong friendships outside of just a romantic partnership so you're not solely reliant on one person for support. The Okinawan centenarians often had secondary occupations, like gardening, which adds a layer of redundancy. Being anti-fragile means being prepared for the unexpected by not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second strategy?
Second, bet conservatively in critical areas, take small risks elsewhere. Basically, protect yourself from catastrophic, ruinous losses, but take numerous small risks that have limited downside but potentially large upside. Think of it like investing small amounts in many diverse ventures rather than putting your entire life savings into one highly speculative one. Avoid betting the farm.
And the third?
Third, actively get rid of fragility. Identify and deliberately remove people, things, and habits that make you vulnerable, cause you chronic stress, or lead to significant losses. This could be toxic relationships, crippling debt, or self-destructive habits like excessive gambling, or maybe even social media use that consistently makes you unhappy. The source frames these as good riddance goals.
So challenges and setbacks aren't just things to survive. They can actually be opportunities to become stronger.
Exactly. Adversity becomes a catalyst. It allows you to refine your life, prune away what makes you fragile, and maybe better align with your ikigai. As Taleb suggests, life inherently has randomness and disorder, and cultivating anti-fragility is this continuous process of intelligent correction that allows you to benefit from that inherent uncertainty rather than being broken by it. This section really pulls together ancient wisdom from Buddhism and Stoicism, timeless Japanese concepts like wabi-sabi and ichigo-ichi, and modern ideas like anti-fragility to offer this powerful framework for building inner strength, finding peace and acceptance, and actually thriving amidst life's inevitable challenges, ultimately reinforcing your connection to your ikigai.
Wow, that was a truly expansive deep dive. We started by exploring the concept of Ikigai, that reason for being, and glimpsed the secrets of Okinawa's longevity. We delved into the powerful two-way link between our minds and bodies in the aging process. We looked at therapeutic approaches to finding purpose, understanding existential frustration, and discovered how finding flow in everything we do can be a pathway to living our Ikigai.
The optimal experience.
We heard the simple, profound wisdom from centenarians and masters of longevity. We examined the foundational importance of the Ikigai diet and consistent, gentle movement. And finally, we explored these powerful philosophies and modern concepts for building resilience and even anti-fragility to navigate life's challenges with strength and maybe even grace.
And the core conclusion distilled from this source is, well, both simple and profound, isn't it? Life isn't presented as a problem to be solved or some kind of test to pass. At its heart, the goal seems to be simply to stay busy doing what you love, surrounded by the people you love.
And the authors, drawing directly from the wisdom of those Ogimi centenarians, summarize these principles into 10 guiding rules for living a long, happy, and purposeful life. They offer a really beautiful blueprint to carry forward. Let's share those 10 rules one last time, shall we?
Let's do it. Rule number 1, stay active, don't retire. Keep doing things of value to you and others.
2, take it slow. Leave urgency behind. Embrace a more relaxed pace of life.
3, don't fill your stomach. Remember that 80% rule, stop eating when you are comfortably full, not stuffed.
4, surround yourself with good friends. Nurture your moai, your chosen family, and support network.
5, get in shape for your next birthday. Incorporate gentle, consistent daily movement into your routine.
6, smile. Maintain a cheerful attitude and keep your heart open to others.
7, reconnect with nature. Spend time outdoors and appreciate the natural world to recharge.
8, give thanks. Appreciate everything big or small that brightens your day and fills your life with meaning.
9, live in the moment. Practice ichigo-ichi, cherish each unique, unrepeatable moment as it happens.
And finally, 10, follow your ikigai. Discover or pursue your unique talent, your passion, the reason that makes getting up each morning truly worthwhile.
These 10 rules, they're not just a list, are they? They're really a summary of a whole way of life, weaving together everything we've explored today: diet, movement, community, mindset, and ultimately, purpose.
So as we wrap up this deep dive for you, here's a final thought to maybe carry with you and explore further on your own journey. Considering all these principles, the simplicity we saw in Ogimi, the power of purpose and finding flow, the strength found in resilience and acceptance, the vital importance of connection, what is perhaps one small actionable step you could take today to get just a little bit closer to uncovering or more fully living your own ikigai and truly make this very moment count?
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.